Okay, I think I gave it the couple of seconds. So hello, everybody. We are so excited to have all of you attending and joining us here at the Higher Ed Dreamin' Conference. My name is Kathy Zimmerman. I'm from George Mason University, and I am a member of the Higher Education Advisory Council. I will be your moderator for this session, and we are really excited to welcome sorry, I'm getting all flustered because I was just rambling about those beignets. David Schofield from the University of Colorado to talk to us about how to supercharge a managed events package with point-and-click tools here in Salesforce. While David is doing his presentation, I will be trying to moderate the chat and the Q&A area. So if you have any questions, please make sure you post them. I'm going to turn this over to David and let him get started. Thank you, David.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Joanna. And thanks, everyone, for attending today. I'm Dave Schofield, business analyst at the Leeds School of Business. I've been in higher education for about 10 years, 9 of those on the campus recreation side, and was kind of an admin for the Rec Center CRM software that they used. I found Salesforce in 2020, got my admin cert, and then I joined Leeds a little bit after that. So CU has 4 campuses and a systems office. I'm at the Boulder campus within the Leeds School of Business. And today we are going to be talking about managed packages. The benefit is that you can gain a lot of functionality right away. Like you install the package and it's kind of like one day you don't have a car, you go buy a car, and it's a game changer instantly. It opens up a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities. So, same with the managed packages, you install the packages and you get that functionality right out of the box. And what we're going to be talking about is we have that package, and then what are some things that you can do to enhance it using some of the Salesforce tools, such as fields, reports, some emails, and automation. And so we bought our car, we installed our package, and now we're going to supercharge it and customize it based on our unique business processes. So this is the agenda for today. The goal is I want you to walk away with 2 to 3 ideas that you can implement immediately, that you can take back, today or tomorrow. You could implement some of these. You don't need to be a developer, or consultant, or have a lot of experience. That these are really geared towards things that us admins can do. Some things might be a little basic, but hopefully there's a few tips and tricks that you're able to walk away with today. This is an overview of our ecosystem here at Leeds. We are on Sales and Service Cloud. We are not on EDA, although we are evaluating it. Leeds has been on Salesforce since 2014. So it's a developed, mature org. It was pre-EDA. So that's kind of why we have the setup that we do. You can see some of our other packages there on the side. And the use case that we're going to be talking about today is our Blackthorn Events package. So 2 types of packages with Salesforce. You have managed packages and unmanaged. We're going to be talking about the managed packages, specifically around events. You can see with the managed packages, there's a lot of updates and edits and things that you can make, but there's a few things, depending on the package, that maybe you wouldn't have access to or you can't always edit. There's going to be some features or attributes that you can edit or upgrade and some that you can't, that are locked. And it really just depends on the package. So it's just something to be aware of. For example, you might run into something like this. And I think this one is a lightning component, so I probably shouldn't be messing with it anyways. But you can see, there's some things that are locked that you can't always edit or upgrade. And the whole idea with the managed packages is that the company or the partner is the one that's upgrading and maintaining it. If you start adding your own customizations to it, like custom automation or flows, then you get to maintain it. So that's my quote. If you build it, then you get to maintain it. A few things to consider as, if you're going to customize it, before you develop things is, one, is it on their roadmap? So if it's a feature that you would like to have, maybe you can find out if it's going to be on their roadmap for the next couple releases, and then you don't need to put your time and effort into it. And then how difficult will it be to maintain? So if you're talking about a field, then that's pretty easy. But if you're talking about more complex automation or a flow or something like we'll look at towards the end of today, then you may have to consider that a little bit more as far as how it's going to be maintained long term. All right, so we're going to go pretty fast, rapid fire. I kind of want to show you a variety of different things, and hopefully there's a few that stand out to you. And I do have a list of resources and articles at the end. So if I do go pretty fast through something, I do have a link for each of these for different articles that I use to kind of walk through the process. So here are the field modifications that we're going to talk about. And the first one is Hyperlink Formula. So you can see on the left side where it says event item, EI001094. That doesn't tell the user a whole lot, but it's nice because you can click and it will take you to that. In this case, it's an event item. And you can see this in a lot of places throughout Salesforce. You could do a formula field that displays, maybe the name of that event item, but then you can't click it. So the best of both worlds is this hyperlink formula. So it can function. So on the right side here, this is kind of the updated version where you can have it click and go to whichever record you want to reference. So in this case, I'm going to this exact same event item, but I can choose what I want it to display as the text. So I'm going to display, in this case, the item name. So now on the right side, you can see it gives the user a little bit more information on the page, but it can still function like this one over here. So on this page, now you can use it for navigation as well, up and down the event hierarchy from the group, the event item. So that is the hyperlink formula. This is our original layout that we started with. And I found that I was always scrolling down to look at certain fields. I kind of had to live with it for a little bit until I found what I was constantly going to. And you can see on the right side, there's a header section up at the top. And that header is called a compact layout. You can set that up in the object manager under compact layouts. And then you can choose which fields you want displayed in that header section. Now that I have it set up, I can't live without it. I was in Sandbox or something yesterday and it didn't have the header, and I had to scroll like half the page and I was like, oh, this is terrible. How did I live like this before I had it? So once you get used to that header up at the top and you can easily access the fields that you're referencing all the time, then that's a nice feature to have. One part of that compact layout that we have included is an image. And this is another field that you can do, field modification that you can do. So it's a formula field. A few ways that you can do that. You can use case or you could use if statements. And what I'm doing is referencing the status formula here on the right side. The status formula comes from the package, and there's a lot more logic behind it. And all I'm doing is making this indicator field to display a picture based on what this formula is saying. So it just enhances it, and it makes that formula field a little bit more visible and obvious to the user. So we're leveraging the package for this more advanced logic and then just adding a picture to it. All right, and I think this is the last one for our field modifications, and it's about related records. So if you're referencing another record, you can get to it through a formula field, and you could reference the other object and then the field, like the ID field. If you do that, just regular, like you can see this first one, event.id, you're going to get a 15-digit ID. The trick and kind of a best practice to use case safe ID, and it will give you an 18-digit record ID number, which is not case sensitive. So now you can reference that in any of your processes, and especially in Excel, if you're doing any VLOOKUPs or anything like that, you're going to want to use the 18 digits. So I try to just always use that from now on. One thought is to develop a consistent naming convention, something like ID 18, and use that consistently throughout your org. I didn't know this at the beginning, so I have a few that I need to go back and clean up where I have the 15. But now, like moving forward, I'm always going to use the case safe ID. Excel is hard enough with dates and scientific notation and changing some of your stuff. We were running into that yesterday. So don't make it any harder. Always use that 18 digit so you're not running into any of the case sensitive. So 18-digit case safe ID. A few of the report modifications that we're going to talk about. This first one, you don't know what you don't know. And I remember when I started, I was working on something and I knew that Salesforce had the information that I was looking for, and I just didn't know how to get to it in the report until you learn this trick. So on the custom report types, you can do edit layout. And then right here, you can say add fields related via lookup. And then that lets you access fields from related records. So in this case, I'm on attendee. So now I can pull in fields from contact. I could pull in fields from the sales document. So that's just something you don't know until you learn it. So if you already know that trick, then something else that I learned putting this presentation together is the idea, Kathy knew about this one, about Salesforce Deluxe reports. So it's not something you're going to find and set up if you search Deluxe reports. It's just the idea that rather than creating a bunch of different without reports, that you can do a Deluxe report that basically pulls in all of the related records that you can. So again, I linked to a couple articles that go a little bit more in depth about the idea of Deluxe reports at the end. All right, so now we're going to talk about a detail page button URL. So the idea is here on the event page, I wanted a button that users could just click and they would get a report filtered to their event. Now, out of the box, there's already some reports like this for your list of attendees or some financial reports. But maybe you want to access your new custom deluxe report type that you just made, that we just talked about, and you want it in the click of a button for the event that you're looking at. So what you can do is this URL up until the question mark is just your report URL. So you're going to create your report and you're going to filter it for the event ID, but you're going to leave it blank. You're not going to give it an event ID. You're going to save your report with that event ID filter blank. And then when you create your page button, you are going to add this question mark FV filter value, and you're going to pass it the record ID, the event ID. So then you can come back and, hey, Salesforce, you know that you thought I left it blank. Well, here is the record ID that you need for the report. And so then the click of a button, you'll be able to access the report that you want. And then every event gets their own report rather than having to create it for each one. So we're going to talk about some email modifications next. So in this case, the manage package, it gave us the event registration site. It gives us capacity management. It gives us all of that out of the box. Some events were more concerned or more strict about the capacity than others. So one thing that we did is we just leveraged the capacity management that already existed. And all I did was add a checkbox on here that says low capacity notifications. And then there's a workflow in the back that says, hey, if this box is checked and the capacity gets less than 5, then go ahead and send an email to this event planner. And then that's just, I think of it as some guardrails. So if they're really concerned about, the capacity or anything, then now they can get an additional notification. So this is what it looks like. It just says, hey, for your event, you have 0 spots left. It shows you how many people are signed up. And the event planner might be wondering, oh, I didn't think it was going to fill up that fast. Did I remember to turn on the wait list? And then the email will say, yes, you did. If you want to check and confirm and make sure that people are, from the public registration site are now being pushed to the wait list, Well, here's the link. You can follow it and see what users are seeing that are trying to sign up. And then if you need to make adjustments to your event, well, here's the link to Salesforce, and the event planner can go in there. If they're just sitting on their couch, and they can make changes to the event rather than coming in the next morning like, oh no, the event blew up and they wanted to change something. So this is just kind of guardrails, additional user alerts. We're leveraging the functionality of the package, and we're just enhancing it with an easy checkbox and an email alert. All right. So the next one, we're talking about email actions. So this is an example of an attendee record. It's related to a sales document, and we have the automation that says, as soon as the attendee record is created, go ahead and send an email. And I wanted to include this invoice, which is coming from the sales document. And what we were seeing is the instant that the attendee is created, the email's going out, but it's also doing a lot of stuff in the background, like creating these other related records like the sales document. And when the email went out and I tried to include the invoice, it was blank because the millisecond that the email went out, immediately, this wasn't quite created yet. It was probably off by milliseconds. An architect could give you a better explanation, but all I know is everything was happening at the same time, and it was just off by a split second where this field wasn't populated yet. So I thought I would do a quick fix and just delay it by a minute. But then you come over here and you're like, hours and days, you can't do it by minutes. So this is the workaround. What you do is you create this other field. I called it T-59. It timestamps it 59 minutes before the record was even created. That's what the formula field looks like. You have to do a little math for the unit conversion. And then you go back and you can trigger your workflow an hour after your new field. So it's created 59 minutes in the past, 60 minutes in the future. It gives you a minute after it's created, which is plenty of time for all of those other fields and other records to be created and populated. And then everything is populated on your emails. So that is the 1 minute time delay workaround. Speaking of related records, this is another example. We have an attendee record, and you're probably familiar with classic email templates that I could reference any of these attendee fields, but I can't reference any of these related records through the merge fields of a classic email template. So this is the end result. This is your attendee record, which usually you could include these with just your classic email template. But now I'm using a Visualforce email template so that I can pull in the related object, which in this case was the form submission answers. So this is the one part that's not truly point and click, but it is a powerful tool. I copy and pasted most of it from this article, which I will link to at the end. And I think it's well within the capability of an admin, which is why I included it today. So this is what the Visualforce email template looks like. Again, most of this I copy and pasted, and then I just put in my headers here, and then you just update it with your object and your field references. And so now you're able to reference those related records through an email template. So that's the workaround for that. And finally, we're going to talk about automation. And kind of the takeaway is flows are the future. So there are some tools coming in the next couple of releases to help us migrate workflow rules, process builder, and eventually we're going to lose the ability to create new workflows and process builder, and everything is going to be pushed towards flows. So I just recommend go ahead and start small with flows and get familiar with them. On the left side, this was the first flow that I needed to do. It was a simple one, but it was good learning experience for me just to figure out. So this is transaction, just get records, update records, and then send an email, do a thing. There was some relationship that I couldn't traverse with any of the simpler methods. So that was a good use case for me to learn flows. You can see on the right a little bit more advanced, but it's very similar, right? So if you learn that first one, I'm just doing the get records a few more times. This one adds in a screen. Same thing, update records just like I did on the other one, and then send some emails. So if you have a use case, start small and start getting familiar with flows. So we're at time. The recap, really, the managed package, you gain a lot of functionality right out of the box. You went from having no car to having a car, and then we customized it. We upgraded it based on our business processes using some of those tools. And I will leave this screen up for a moment. You can take a picture for that QR code, scan the QR code, and that will link to all of the articles and resources that I used or referenced for any of those enhancements and modifications that we talked about. And I have not been keeping an eye on chat. So at this point, I'm all wrapped up and we can open it up for any questions.
Well, David, you did such a great job explaining things. I don't currently have any questions and we went to time, but Perfect. It was awesome.
Perfect.
So I do want to encourage everybody. I hope you take a picture of that QR code that David just had on the screen, and I hope you wrote it down. So it's right back on that screen. I'm going to go ahead and just point up to the agenda or over to your My Agenda and make sure that you're joining us in some of the other great sessions, and or hit a networking table or hit a booth for one of the vendors, because they're all excited to talk to you. So we thank you again for joining us today. David, we thank you so much for your presentation, and well done. Great job.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.